skirts.
But I'm made wear shorts. I have to wear shorts. Well, I'd love to wear a skirt.
If I told you wanted to wear a skirt, would you put it on?
I love these skirts. I'd love to wear one.
I don't believe that for a second.
The GAA Hour with Colin Parkinson is brought to you by Paddy Power, home of the Money Back Special.
All right, welcome along to the formerly known hurling show. It's the Camogie show today. The fantastic All-Ireland final. I think Camogie might have needed that. Laura Twomey is in the studio with me. Did Camogie need that?
Definitely. I think it could nearly be called a revival of Camogie there. It was definitely the most exciting game we've seen in recent years, and you know, everyone watching it just thought that fast, free flowing game, and both teams just really put everything out there and provide an absolute spectacle for the day. I
was reading a stat where Galway's half-time score of 3-7 would have won the last two finals, and it would have drawn the one in 2016.
Yeah, I actually just I read that earlier on. Like, it's kind of incredible to think that, you know, and it was the highest scoring final since I think it was 2002 as well, and it was just, I think the 3 goals, there's only been 3 goals over the last 4 years, the last 4 finals in total, and you know, they had 3 within the first half and 2 within a 3-minute period as well, so it gave that, you know, incredibly exciting vibe to the game, and I suppose just reinvigorated the whole thing, you know.
And it needed reinvigorating though, didn't it? Because the last 2 finals were, let's be honest, borefests, and I know, like, in Gaelic football we have this huge media attention whenever there's a bad game. If that happened in the men's football, there would be war, you know. Like, I mean, in the Camogie circles, you must have been worried, you know, at the showpiece event not living up, you know, to what people want.
And I think, like, it was frustrating, everyone involved, players, people watching as well, and I know there's a lot of, you know, pointing to the rules and that, as to that they're contributing to the stop-start nature of it, but I also think Galway and Kilkenny yesterday, you know, brought a different level, a different intensity. They just kind of, it was so free-flowing themselves that they nearly, you know, turned the game on itself, and the referee contributed to it as well. He let a lot go, and you know, they were probably told to try and make it as free-flowing as possible, and that really added to the game, to the spectacle of the whole occasion.
He likes a lecture, that referee. I was looking at it going, I don't like that kind of authority at all. Like, I mean, he wouldn't just give you a yellow card. He'd get a yellow card and a good lecture.
He had to say something about it, and I think there were 7 yellow cards given out in total, like, so he definitely had 7 few talking points throughout the game.
And he loves hand gestures as well. It's a big dramatic.
Yeah, I know. I'd say Sarah Dervin was getting the raw end of the stick there with him a couple of times, but they had a few little feisty moments there.
They definitely did. Did you think she was under pressure? Because, like, obviously she got the yellow, and I'll ask you now about the yellow. I thought that was a very harsh yellow. Now, I know shouldering isn't allowed in Camogie, so maybe that was kind of feeding into it a little bit. I would have thought in the men's game that was it was a free out or a free back in for barging, and that would have been it.
Yeah, I think, you know, in another game it could have been a free just for barging, but I suppose there was a slight angle of the shoulder coming in there as well, and with all the talk and, you know, spotlight around the rules and shouldering, that I'd say, you know, it kind of was a 50-50 call, and I suppose I don't think people would have looked at it too unfairly and said she's been shafted there, but I think
she kind of jumped into her a little bit too.
She did, like, and it was a heavy tackle, and you know, Dalton fell down fairly flattened to the floor there as well, so that probably added a bit to it as well, you know. But I think, you know, she obviously had to watch herself then for the rest of the game, and she had 1 or 2 other hairy moments where
there was a free not long after that with Sarah Dervin, and it was Ray Kelly, the referee, and in fairness to him, that was an honest effort at getting the ball. I know she was behind.
Was it the one where she stepped on the foot?
She tripped her up, kind of. But that was an honest effort at getting back. I think so. It was good refereeing not to give another yellow there. I thought maybe she could have.
Yeah, and he could have easily, you know, in the thick of it there, just given that out immediately, and that would have changed the game completely, you know. And you saw from the hurling final how that influenced the rest of the game. But I think he made the right call there, and you know, she's not a malicious player, like, and it was definitely a fair tackle as well. You know, there was nothing in it, like.
Yeah, there wasn't anything in it.
I think he made the right call there, which was.
So we'll go easy on.
Ray, you did a good job.
It was a bit negative on Ray there at the start.
Yeah.
Come here. So Kilkenny have now lost 8 of their last 9 finals. Wow, that's an incredible stat. And Anne Downey stepped down this morning. So she obviously won it in 2016 with them, and they hadn't won it for 22 years. But they've gone down badly, I suppose, now the last 3 years. 2 1-point losses, am I right? And then the loss yesterday.
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously heartbreaking for them, and it's kind of ironic to say a team is going down badly when they've been in so many finals, 5 of the last 7. I think in the last one they lost, or they previously lost to Galway as well, you know, so this will be another kind of nail in the coffin for them. But like they've an excellent cohort of players there, and I suppose they've shown their resilience over the years in getting to that final every time. But you do have to question whether, you know, they're having trouble getting over that white line.
Yeah,
the last
it's become a psychological
minutes,
thing now.
Yeah, and I think, you know, they'll have to really dig deep now over the winter and have a serious think about their approach to next year, you know. But they do, like, they have an incredible panel there, and they can't have any complaints about yesterday. They were outworked, they were outclassed all over the pitch. Their big players just weren't in the game for as much as they needed them. There was just purple patches where you'd see, you know, and Dalton and Denise Gall, and that they had points where they were excellent, but it just wasn't consistent enough. And Galway's pace and attacking style was just too much for them.
Yeah, no, I think it was. We'll talk about the match in part 2. We won't get too much into analysis. Are you surprised Anne Downey stepped down, or is this it's just happened today? It's probably not a surprise.
Yeah, no, I don't. Yeah, a couple of us were chatting after the game there yesterday, and we were saying wouldn't really be surprised to see her go. You know, three in a row, and I think there was kind of rumours of her, you know, possibly going last year, but giving it one more year here. So I think, like, she's, you know, she's a great relationship with the girls, and I know they've massive respect for her there. But I'd say it's probably maybe time for someone new to step in and try and just get them over the line now for next year. And they've a lot of backroom selectors and background team there that, you know, are experienced with the team as well. So, you know, they could get someone else in or else get someone there to drive it on.
Yeah, promote from within. So the crowd was record breaking. There seems to be record breaking every time there's an All-Ireland in Camogie or ladies football now. There's a new record broken. 24,730, which must have been great.
I know, yeah. No, it was, I was sitting in the Hogan stand, and I looked up to the screen and saw they were 230 off the 25,000. I was thinking, can we not have got a couple of more school loads of kids in there to get that 25,000?
Well, they should round up, right?
I know, yeah, that's sort of. But no, it was still amazing to see, like, you know, for a standalone final. And there was a great buzz in there, and, you know, that's only going to continue to improve. And, like, even the fact that Galway had two teams in both finals probably added to that a little bit. They probably would have broken over that had there been another county involved. But,
true.
You know, it was excellent to see, and I think that's only going to grow and improve, you know, over there, especially with the 2020 campaign and everything going on there as well. Like.
Yeah. Well, if you get forget about the 2020 campaign, that's great. But if you have finals like yesterday, it will grow organic. You know what I mean? That's what people want to watch.
Exactly,
you know, a good game like that.
You know? I suppose even today, you know, talking to a couple of people who wouldn't be involved in Camogie at all, they're just mentioning, saying, you know, I saw that brilliant game on TV, and, you know, that word spreads like that, and then you end up getting people on, you know, into the games and more attracted to it. So
now not running down to 20 by 20, but like, I mean, I'm more into if the game is really good, like yesterday.
No, it was a spectacle, and you know, it was completely a turn on tables from the last 2 years. So, you know, it was great for everyone involved.
No, it definitely was. So Cathal Murray, I thought this was an interesting one, because I was watching the intermediate final, and I was looking at him going, that's the senior manager, and I'm like, how the hell is this fella handling this? And then, like, he's actually managing both teams. I hadn't seen this before. Obviously the three games are on the same day. How was he doing this?
I know. It's some man for one man. And there was actually a debate as to whether, you know, would he leave a couple of minutes before the end of the inter-final, you know, and start preparing the seniors.
He couldn't, because it was so close.
So I don't know, he's nerves of steel anyway, but I heard an interview with him there during the week, and he was saying, you know, they did an awful lot of, obviously, team training together with the two teams, like, but it's an incredible achievement for himself, only coming in the last recent times as well. You know,
middle of last year, I think it was.
Middle of last year, like, when Galway were very much in disarray, and, you know, had the players and had the capability, but needed someone very strong to pull them together. So you know, he's done an amazing job there, and I think he, you know, the fact that the second team lost, I think he said it was mentioned in the changing room at half time, you know, that they can't afford, even though they were up in the senior game, to let that slip. Like, so he's probably drawn on both experiences from both games. But I'd say it's a very stressful situation now for him yesterday, getting, you know, even changing your mind frame from, you know, one set of players to the other, and just trying to.
How many meetings is that man in a week?
Like, he's never at home.
How many video sessions does this lad have to do? Like, think about what he's taken on. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's a mammoth task, and I suppose he obviously has a lot of good people around him as well. But I wouldn't envy him. I don't know if I'd be able to do one job on my own, let alone two.
Well, that's it, yeah. And I don't know, there's a little thing about the senior team just not having their manager around in the lead up to the match. I would find that straight, you know what I mean? It's just a little bit unusual, you know?
Yeah, I know, yeah. They obviously, you know, they're probably used to it now at this stage. Probably they would have had, even with the league, and, you know, that I suppose have to get used to sharing him a little bit. But they obviously have people around them as well that they're looking up to, this different selectors and that are driving the whole thing on as well. And I suppose Galway, they're mature mature enough team. They've a nice blend of experience and youth, and the senior players around that team would have kind of driven the whole thing on yesterday.
They probably would. They actually in 2013 they won both.
Yeah,
and Tony Ward was the manager of both.
The two of them, as
well. And I saw some quotes from him. He says it's draining, it's hard work. No shit, Tony. It's definitely. I can imagine that's right. You would be drained for a long time after it, emotionally. I've never managed, but I'm sure the kind of emotional investment in management watching a game could be more difficult.
I know, even for being injured at times, like it's harder definitely watching a game, so but a couple of the really successful counties have had that, like even when you think of Paddy Murray and the two Cork teams, the intermediate and the senior team, and you'd have to wonder, I suppose, like they're obviously working very, very well together.
The training together makes sense. All that stuff makes sense.
The logistical, could be a nightmare at times, but I'd say he has himself very well set up there.
Match day. I was actually going to talk to Cathal Murray. We're talking to Ailish O'Reilly, who seems like a real character, so I'm looking forward to talking to her in part 2. But I rang Cathal Murray this morning and some woman answered his phone. I don't know, is she a county board official? And she said to me, "We've just won an All-Ireland. He's in a meeting. He'll ring you back." So I was like, "Okay."
What did you respond?
I was trying to plough moss her a bit, and create some sort of relationship there so that she'd do me a favour. It wasn't entertaining.
I wonder, was that her standard response the whole year now? Bar the All-Ireland, but he's in a meeting, will respond. Could have been it.
Yeah, we've just won an All-Ireland.
He was probably sitting right beside her now, so
maybe,
get him off the phone.
Yeah. Maybe they knew it was
They're
me.
They're very hard to pin down, though.
So 14 of the intermediates togged out for the seniors after the intermediate, to bump up their squad or whatever as well, which I thought was interesting on All-Ireland final day. So it is like a big inclusive, big huge panel, I suppose, in that Galway.
You can actually see them all there, sitting together in the dugouts, and it's nice to see that inclusivity and that togetherness, and both teams there for each other, I suppose, and it's great to have that amount of numbers to call on during the day, and their subs did make a big impact as well. Yeah,
they definitely did. Another one I want to ask you about is the goalkeepers wear the same jerseys as the outfield players. So I was watching the parade go around and I was thinking, what the hell is the meaning of this? How can the goalkeeper be in the same jersey? What kind of confusion is this going to cause? And I started thinking, why do they wear different coloured jerseys? And there wasn't too many reasons jumping to mind, other than in the men's game you can't pick the ball, or the goalkeeper is allowed to pick the ball up in the small square.
Yeah.
Maybe for that confusion, but that's not there.
No, it's not in Camogie.
You can pick it up from everywhere, obviously.
Yeah, it's always been the way as well, and I suppose for us it's nearly, we nearly ask the same question. When you're seeing someone in a different colour jersey, but I suppose it's nice that you have that consistency within the team, and there aren't I suppose rules that are only going to apply to the goalie there in that capacity. So that's kind of it's always been the way, and hopefully that won't change going forward.
Yeah,
you've enough to be contended with.
You've enough to be given out about, right?
That's it.
We'll get to the Skorts in a while, right? So the Westmeath had a brilliant win, right? So this game looked dead and buried at half time. I was like, geez, there's no way back for these at all. And what a collapse by Galway. Like 1 point in the second half. I don't think that did any wides, and the point came in injury time. And it's 2 All-Irelands in 3 years for Westmeath. So there was a great interview from Johnny Greville after the game. He says, "You're not going to get a Jim Gavin out of me." Yeah, so he was overjoyed. And a little dig at Jim Gavin as well. I thought that was uncalled for.
Jim Gavin seen it yet. maybe we'll get a good post-match interview now on Sunday.
Yeah, well, see,
or Saturday.
I like an old dig at Jim Gavin myself from time to time, but I was thinking, geez, there was no need for that with Jim Gavin there with that. But no, Johnny, he talked from the heart, and it's his sister Pamela, obviously, and there's a brilliant stat about her that in 13 years, Will O'Callaghan had this on Twitter, in 13 years Westmeath have gone from junior B to senior. Pamela Greville leading the way throughout that rise up the ranks. Remarkable servant, and delighted she had a big part in today's win. I think her daughter was there as well. It was just a nice story.
As she's some stalwart for Westmeath, and they're
very good still too, isn't she?
Yeah, and they've a lot of family relations on that team as well. All the McGraths, there's a lot of cousins and sisters, and they're a very tight team. There's a good bond there, and they obviously have structures well set in place in Westmeath Camogie. To have won that junior and the intermediate now, and now they'll be up senior in the next year is a pretty incredible testament to what they're doing down there. But he spoke from the heart afterwards. It was very raw. It was lovely to see that emotion between the two of them.
We love those kind of interviews, definitely, when you don't have any filter or anything like that. So Kerry won the junior. And I thought this was interesting that the team is made up entirely of Clan Morris players, with one exception. I think Breed Horan's Killard. She's obviously young, because they have 6 underage teams, I think. So Camogie is obviously very growing in North Kerry. We know that's a hurling stronghold. But the whole team, it's pretty much a club team that won the Junior All-Ireland, so that's a fantastic achievement as well.
Yeah, it's incredible for them. I remember reading about that when they were actually trying to form that Kerry team a couple of years back, and it was all driven from the players in that club. They came together and said we want to represent Kerry, and I suppose it makes it even nicer for them going back now to the club. It's going to be a very local affair. There's not going to be any arguments about where they're going to go.
No.
Bar that one player, but yeah, it's nice to see, and it's good to see the other 6 clubs being formed. And
and she's young. She's no say that.
Yeah, she's just to be pushed aside.
She has to serve her time.
She just has to go and spend her week now in that club.
But there was another interesting one, right? So they beat Limerick in the final, and Clonmorris used to play in the Limerick Club Championships. And I think this was a piece in the 42. I thought it was interesting. So there was a big controversy because they won it, and then there was a big controversy about who would represent Limerick in Munster. And I think Clonmorris obviously didn't get to represent them because they've dropped out of playing in Limerick. So now they just collect the county title. They collect the county title every year. It's
a funny one. It's kind of hard to get your head around, but I suppose it could lead to a couple of arguments and whatnot within the Limerick crew as well. So I'd say it's probably the right decision for them to maybe drop out of that.
It definitely is, and I think maybe in 4 or 5 years they'll have a thriving senior championship when they come up through the ranks. Yeah. Right, we're going to finish off before we get into a little bit of match analysis with this Skorts business, because I saw you've been very vocal on this.
Don't get me in trouble again.
Do you get in trouble? There's a couple of different things with this, right? So let's just break down what a skort is. So to me, it's like a pair of bicycle shorts with a skirt attached around it.
It's basically it in a nutshell, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I suppose
it look lovely and comfortable.
Well, they are comfortable, and in the winter, I suppose they're warm. You know,
double layer.
You have the double layer, and a lot of players would actually wear the shorts, the tighter shorts underneath shorts in the winter. For warmth anyway. But that's essentially what it is, and actually, the ones we used to wear before are nearly skirts as well. They were called skirts because they had a wraparound part around the front of it, but they did have a pair of shorts attached in them.
Okay.
Like it ultimately came from the longer flowing skirts from back in the 1920s and 1930s. Like that's where the term skirts comes from, but they haven't actually been worn in a long time. So it kind of has been skirts, but skirts has only been the term that's been floating around the last 10 years or so.
Okay.
With the newer version of them, I suppose.
And the issue is what? Is that you don't like being made wear them? Is that the issue? Here, that it's old fashioned. Woman has to wear a skirt.
Yeah, I suppose like it's kind of putting women into a certain category again, that like you have to wear a certain piece of clothing. But it does come back from years ago, when I suppose women were told what to wear on the pitch.
Yeah.
And I suppose the big thing is that players want to be able to wear the same sort of clothes or shorts as anyone else. The other women aren't being made wear skirts.
Yeah. But I'm made wear shorts. I have to wear shorts. Well, I'd love to wear a skirt.
If I told you wanted to wear a skirt, would you put it on?
I love these skirts. I'd love to wear one.
I don't believe that for a second.
But that's it. So
but it's a big thing is that like we don't train in them, so I suppose. Well, you do get the odd person, the odd weirdo training in it, rocking up to training in a skirt. But no, most players would train in shorts, and then you're able to go to your match day and put on a skirt essentially. So it is, it's all the different things. But
so why don't you do something about it then? It's very easy. You have a GPA, the women's GPA, and just say, look, we're refusing as a panel to wear these skirts. We'd prefer to wear shorts. We wear them training. And we want to move on from this, tradition.
Yeah. Well, and various people are talking out about it, and there's the rules review committee now, where I'd say will be brought up within that possibly trial, and bringing in wearing shorts. But you can't play a match, you won't be allowed on the pitch otherwise. If you come without, even in club championship, if you wear a pair of shorts, they say you can't play with
the referee will say
you can't. So it's a little bit out of your hands in that way. But I suppose as a team or as a county, as a unit, there is scope to look together like that. But then you want to do it in a way that's positive and not going against the association, and you want to try and I suppose work it out, as opposed to So
I'm more for the rebellious kind of thing that yourselves and if say you're playing Waterford in Championship, you both refuse to take the field.
Well, yeah, if you can get your opponents to do the same thing, then maybe that would be
that's what
a
the
mark
women's GP is for. That's what it's for.
And in fairness, they're great, like, and they are the voice there. But I suppose I hadn't thought that one now. So maybe we'll look at our first round Championship next year and see who we have if nothing has changed by then.
Didn't the men back when they were trying to do little protests like Cork hurlers used to go around in the parade with their socks down and all silly stuff like that, just to make a point that both sets of players did it as a sign that we're unified.
But you see, I think you have to have everyone on board. I don't know. There's not.
Is there players still out there that actually like the Skorts?
Well, some people like them. Right. No,
so
they're probably keeping their hands down. Like, but I'm not going to say. There definitely are people who don't mind them, as opposed to people who very strongly don't want to wear them.
All right.
Which I obviously am one of them. But I'd say the majority would prefer to get rid of them. But I think you need complete unanimity in a team to be making stands like that. So
okay, well look,
I'll have to get on to the girls next year.
I'm not getting involved in it, right?
Well, I'm going to say you got me to do this now. So
okay, we'll be back in a second with Ailish O'Reilly. All right, delighted to say fresh from scoring 2 goals and making a 3rd goal in the All-Ireland final yesterday. Ailish O'Reilly joins us on the line now. How's the head today, Ailish?
Yeah, it's good. It's fresh as it'll be, I guess. It was a good night, one that we'll cherish, I think, for a long time. So ready to start day 2 now.
You're ready to board the bus and take the cup back across the Shannon, I believe.
Yeah, it'll be special bringing it back. I suppose 2013 seems like an awful long time ago now, so it'll be special.
Yeah, so 2013, I think there's only 5 left from then, so it's a pretty big turnover of players.
Yeah, I suppose 7 years is quite a long time when it comes to player development and different players and stuff. So now we still have the backbone like Sarah Dervin, Heather Cooney, Lorraine Ryan, but then you have the likes of Catherine Finnerty, Niamh Hannafy, Sarah Spellman coming in and doing the job just as well.
Yeah, so I read a quote from you saying that you didn't appreciate the last one enough, but by God, I'm going to enjoy this one.
Yeah, I suppose that was my first year in at 19. I was so young. I don't think I suppose when you go in at 19, you think, oh look, we won one, we'll definitely win another. And 7 years took us to win a second one, so I know how hard they are now to win, and this one's just a little bit more sweet.
Yeah, I was reading that you were vomiting all the morning of your first one in 2013. I presume the nerves had calmed down for yesterday.
Yeah, well, it was funny. Myself and my brother actually woke up in 2013 and my neighbour with some sort of, I don't know, was it food poisoning or what. Oh,
right.
So, yeah, to wake up yesterday feeling 100% was great. So, yeah, definitely another reason to cherish it a little bit more.
So goals win games is the old cliche, and that came true obviously yesterday. And I believe yourself and Niamh Hannafy were messing in the car on the way up saying that you were going to go out and score goals.
I suppose when you're travelling to training 4 or 5 nights a week with each other, you'd have those chats and conversations. Myself and Hanno, Niamh, we play with Ormore as well, so we have a special relationship with each other, and we can read each other very, very well. And we just knew the plan was to stick the 2 of us inside, that we were both dangerous in there, and I think we proved it yesterday.
Yeah, you definitely did. Your second goal, you had an awful lot of time to think about it. Yourself and Grace Walsh were the last 2 players in there. When you won it, you were the last one in on goals, but you had a little bit of time. What's going through your head there?
Yeah, I suppose it made it that a little bit easier. That Grace, actually, I think she slipped. Emma Kavanagh came out all right out of her goals, but thankfully I put it in anyway and not anywhere off her.
Yeah, no, you definitely did. Maybe there was a temptation to go around her, because I was thinking, sometimes when you have so much time on your hands, too many thoughts go through your head and you don't know what you're going to do.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I suppose I do get a good bit of flagging for my hand passing goals, so I'm surprised I didn't solo all the way in the hand pass. But I suppose the fact that I kind of knew she had slipped, I knew I had that extra bit of seconds to compose myself and look. And thankfully I finished it.
Yeah, you had a brilliant quote yesterday as well about the championship loss to Kilkenny. You obviously beat them in the league and then you lost to them in the championship, and you said we beat them in the league final, and the talk was that they beat us in the first round of the championship. What was the point in giving anything away then? We were definitely going to have to play them again. So had you got a trick up your sleeve going into that championship game, going, look, we're not going to show all our cards here?
Well, to be honest, nothing was actually said from the management about not having anything up our sleeves. I suppose we went out in that championship game and Kilkenny probably had one of their best performances of the season, and we still only lost by 2 points. We had quite a lot of changes then from that game to yesterday, with Teenie Cormacan going back, you had Catherine Finishy coming in, with Sarah Spellman. So we knew we had so much left, and I think to be Cork and Kilkenny, Bill Duffy just makes that bit sweeter.
Oh, it definitely does. Like, I mean, you won it the hard way. There's no point in saying anything else. But, like, I mean, did you feel that you didn't get enough credit for beating Cork? Because Kilkenny were 4-7 favourites coming into the final.
Yeah, but I suppose that's been the topic of conversation, I think, with the Galway team for a long time now. I know we've lost the semi-final stages the last few years, but if you look at the scoring margins, they were never any more than a couple of points. So, look, okay, they were right to criticise us, but this year, whatever Cahill and the management team, they instilled a bit of belief and self-confidence in ourselves. So we knew we were well capable of beating both teams.
Yeah, you definitely did. Like, I mean, when you talk about you don't know what Cahill did. Like, I mean, I presume has he worked on the mental side of your game, or has he just brought in such a setup that, you know, it's made you feel that there's nothing you're not prepared for?
Yeah, I was asked that a couple of times yesterday too, and I can't actually pinpoint it, but I suppose this year in particular, we won as a team, we lost as a team. There was a work rate from the forwards and as well as the backs. We brought that, we were saying the harder we work, the luckier we get, and it just stuck with everyone from 1 to 30. He just put that bit of belief in ourselves, confidence, and I don't know what exactly it was, but it worked for us.
Yeah, you did a lot of work on strength and conditioning. I heard yesterday on the analysis.
Yeah, in fairness, Robbie Lane probably won't get as much credit as he deserves, but we were back in the gym last November, probably running rings around certain pitches till April or May. We were wondering when it was ever going to stop. But I think there was a lot of talk about Cork fitness, there was a lot of talk about Kilkenny fitness, but it suited us down to the ground. We knew we were fitter than any of those teams, and suited us, and the pressure was on all the other teams.
Yeah, no, there definitely was. Definitely seemed to be Kilkenny were weighed down by the expectation a little bit, where ye were going in, a little bit freer.
Yeah, well, it's kind of literally like there was the idea that they lost the last 2 finals, that they'd every given right to go out yesterday and win the third, but they're not easy won, and I think we were definitely the better team on the day yesterday.
Yeah, you got the goals, definitely. Were you a little bit concerned when they got it back to 2?
Yeah, you would be naturally, I suppose, when a 6-point lead goes down to 2. But if it was any other year, I would have been exceptionally nervous. But whatever resilience we had this year, we managed to keep our heads. And it's not the first time we've done it this year. We did it in the league final. We did it against Cork last week when Amy O'Connor scored. So not as worried as other years, but I suppose sometimes you'd have to have doubts. Will things turn or will they not?
Well, definitely, because there was that miss free, wasn't there? I think.
Yeah, Carrie missed one. Yeah.
And then she got a brilliant one. Then
after that, probably the only one. Yeah, exactly. It's probably the only one she missed all day, and she got the harder one then. Yes, so fair play to her, and same in the Waterford game, she kept us in it with the free. So she's seriously accurate at the moment. Only for her, we probably wouldn't be here today.
That one from a tight angle was to put 3 in it, and that just completely deflated Kilkenny. Then it seemed, that was almost like the final nail in their coffin. Come here, just talk to me quickly about the injury to Tara Kenny. Did you use that as a motivation? Did she speak in the dressing room beforehand? Because your team had to reshuffle around then with Katrina Cormacan going back to Mark Ann Dalton and Catherine Finnerty, who played really well. She was playing in the forwards then.
Yeah, well, I suppose, once the day we heard it, we were obviously devastated, but she spoke to us in the dressing room. She made sure that, feel sorry for her, but we still have an All-Ireland to win. She was still part of it yesterday. She was still on the sideline with us, and as you said, Teenie slotted back into 6 as if she was playing there the whole year. Catherine Finishy came in and did an excellent job. So I suppose that's the whole point of a panel, really. We had Starry coming in at half-time as well. And I think that's what wins All-Ireland. A couple of subs as well made an absolute massive impact.
Yeah, no, they definitely did. And your defence, you keep talking about your defence. Kilkenny had scored 16 goals coming into the game, and they didn't get a sniff of a goal yesterday at all. There was no chance.
Yeah, it was actually another thing that I highlighted in one of the interviews yesterday. Our 6 backs have not been given enough credit at all throughout the championship. And to be honest, I don't think Kilkenny even looked like getting a goal yesterday. Even Emma Hellibert had to slap back into full back when Dervin was on the yellow card, and she slotted back in there so nicely. Shauna Healy had probably one of the best years I've seen from anyone. Same as Heather Cooney and Rhino. You know, they're solid back there, and they've played together now for so long that they didn't get the credit they deserve. But as long as we know within our own bunch that they're just as good as anyone else, that's the most important thing.
Yeah. So Cathal Murray came in halfway through last year. He was the 5th manager in 4 years. Like, are you a hard bunch to manage, or what has he gotten right?
Yeah, I guess from the outside it's probably what it looks like. But again, as I said, within our own 30, we're the only ones really that are going to know what happened, what the truth was really. But look, that's gone. Thankfully, Cathal, he came in the middle of last year. We didn't probably get a right crack at it. But this year we went back for the first time in a long time, back in November, with absolutely no distractions, no meetings to see who was going to take over. So it proved dividend.
Yeah, all that stuff was a bit of a distraction in other years, even though you were getting to All-Ireland semi-finals.
Yeah, I suppose it's just the distraction, and I suppose about the girls, are they not happy again? I suppose then you're back in January and you're looking for a manager, then you're trying to find strength conditioning. So it takes a bit of time, whereas we were back to the start of November last year and straight into it, and everyone was into it from the word go.
Right, okay, so I presume you've tied him down to a long-term contract last night over a few drinks.
Yeah, well, we hope he's not going anywhere, definitely not.
Okay,
we'll cherish this one, but...
I'm sure. Come here, I'll leave you go now. What's the plan for the week before I let you go?
Well, for the week, I'm not 100% sure, but right now we're going to head back to, I think, to Kinnegad. We're going to walk it over to Shannon, then at Athlone, and head on to Lochray and back to Durban's club in Mulla.
Brilliant stuff. Listen, thanks for taking the time to talk to us. Ailish.
No bother, thanks a million.
All right, bye-bye. So Anne Downey said after the game, Laura, that Galway were the better team on the day and wanted it more. I found that a strange one in an All-Ireland final. I know hindsight can often, say that. Could Galway have wanted it more than Kilkenny, who had lost the last 2 finals?
Yeah, I mean, I actually just read something with her there, and it was the exact same thing. She said they were hungrier, and I don't know why. And I thought that was kind of strange as well, but it was obviously in the moment, she was trying to reflect back on what may or may not have happened. And I suppose everyone... The pressure probably was a little bit more on Kilkenny, having lost the 2 finals, and I don't know, maybe it ate them up a little bit, but watching the game, Galway's just the intensity and the ferocity of it, and they did look like they had that bit more desire and hunger than Kilkenny, which is very hard to get your head around considering the pain and the hurt of the last couple of years for them. But I just think Galway's intensity it nearly dampened any probably massive hunger that Kilkenny were trying to bring to it. They kept trying, and Galway just were on the pressurising them all the time. So it is a hard one to get your head around, and I say they'll be doing a lot of serious soul searching and reflecting now in the next couple of months. I'm
sure they will. Ailish O'Reilly, like I was saying to her there in part 2, she was saying that the strategy was to play it down the middle. Thankfully we got on break a ball, and I kind of noticed that in the first half, especially from puckouts. They're straight down the middle, and the Galway forwards always seemed to bunch around where the ball was landing, whereas on the other side then Kilkenny were trying to play, I don't know, to compare it to Limerick, say, in the hurling, nice measured passes in front of the players, where Galway were going more route one. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, and Sarah Healy in goals, has been an absolute find for them.
She has some puck out, doesn't she?
Her puck outs are incredible, the length of them. And from the get-go, Galway were launching those puck outs straight down the middle between their full back and their centre back there, or Kilkenny's full and centre back. And the bunch and then enabled the Galway forwards just to make a run, and they were just peeling off in behind every single time. And they were winning that foot race between Kilkenny. Kilkenny just couldn't keep up with them with which way they were going. And even the wing back in there, Catherine, I can't remember the second name, the replacement for Tara Finnerty.
She played in the forwards, didn't she? I think there was a reshuffle there.
Yeah, there was. Yeah, and she almost got a goal off one of those moves from the back line there. So they're tactical. I think. Powers, just it worked really, really well yesterday. And Kilkenny did try to employ that kind of nearly, it was nearly a cork tactic, that corridor tactic, where all the forwards line up in a straight line and peel off for their puck outs, but they just weren't getting on enough ball, and none of their main players were on enough ball for them to be influential enough.
Yeah, that's the thing. What this bunching and kind of disorganisation, but it's probably organised chaos kind of thing to it. But it had Kilkenny all over the place. Like their defence,
they didn't know how to.
There was 3 goals, and there was another one cleared off the line by Kellyanne Doyle, and then it just looked like Galway. Whenever they got a ball, they were able to run at their direct opponent, draw someone else, and now all of a sudden there's mayhem.
Yeah, they didn't know how to react, and it was from the very start as well. And I suppose what really contributed to it was the two midfielders were so fast off the breaking ball.
They dominated midfield.
Niamh Kilkenny and Aoife Donoghue. The speed of them onto that breaking ball from both Kilkenny and the Galway puckouts was just unbelievable. Yeah. And they were setting up attack after attack, and the forwards, were just the movement of them was incredible. And everyone spoke, I suppose, about Kilkenny's forward unit, and their movement and their interplay, but it was Galway that were causing the confusion, and Kilkenny didn't know how to counteract it at all. And I suppose in the second half they tried to bring back that sweeper style a little bit to counteract the goals, but it still wasn't enough for them.
Still wasn't enough. Ailish said as well, she'd some great quotes after the game, like I was mentioning to her. She says this was after they obviously beat them in the league final and then lost the first round of the championship, and she said, what was the point in giving anything away today, or giving anything away then in that game? We're definitely going to play against them again, and we're definitely going to have to play Cork. So I'm picturing from that they didn't do this from their puckouts, and you know what I mean, they didn't do this kind of bunching thing, and this was a surprise tactic, which makes it all the more impressive from Cathal Murray to try something new in a final.
Yeah, no, they hadn't. They worked it in 1 or 2, but definitely not in as many of their set plays. And I suppose it's a pretty brave move from Cathal to introduce something like that, but it's obviously something that they've been working along from a long time. And I suppose to counteract Kilkenny's forward play as well was pretty incredible of them, but even in that league final, they were down an awful lot. I think they were down about 7 points or 10 points at half time, and they were able to bring that back to nearly 2 or get the win in that, and then to bring it back to 2 points in their championship, their round game. But they obviously had a couple of tricks up their sleeves that they knew they were going to meet those two teams again, and they needed something else and to bring to their game another level, which you'd nearly expect to see from Cork and Kilkenny, but it was amazing to see from them as well.
Yeah, that was impressive. And like you mentioned, their defence, Kilkenny had 16 goals coming into the game in the championship. Nothing, not a sniff, not even a late shot, which was nothing, going, that was desperation at that stage. How did they do that? Because they lost their wing back in the lead up to the game. Katrina Cormacan went back to mark Anne Doyle, and then Anne Dalton, and then Catherine Finnerty, who was wearing 18, she was up in the forwards most of the time. So their team had to reshuffle, and losing one of their main defenders as well. Yeah,
Tara Kelly is one of their star defenders, and they would have relied a lot on her for not only her defending but also her attacking play. But I thought Katrina Cormacan did an unbelievable job on keeping Dalton quiet in the first half. And
did she follow her into midfield in the second half? She must have, because Anne Dalton started the second half in midfield, and she came into it a bit, but only in fits and starts kind of. She scored one brilliant individual point.
She got 2 great points. And
I think the second one was really good. She played it off the ground.
Yeah, that the skill of that. She actually did that. I think in both of her points, she was able to get the ball back into her hand without taking the 3 times. Which is an incredible piece of individual skill to be able to do under pressure. And there was 2 chasing her as well. But I think she just wasn't, they were trying to get her more and more involved in the game. She's a crucial piece to a lot of Kilkenny's plays. But it just, she was being quietened every time by Katrina Cormacan. Thought she did a great job. And there were other defenders like Shauna Healy out there in cornerback. She had an excellent game as well. Even in, when Kilkenny were staging that comeback in the second half, when they got it down to 2 points, Katie Power was starting to get on a lot of ball. But Shauna Healy, their little flicks and touches, creating turnovers at crucial points were excellent. And I thought their whole back play as a unit was really, really good. And obviously marshalled by Sarah Dervin there in the back. You can see her talking to every line in front of her constantly. She's such a leader on the pitch, and the girls definitely feed off that. Yeah, and Heather Cooney with a lovely black card cynical trip in the second half. Did you see that? That was a behind the back trip. So yeah, I know. Yeah, I don't know if many picked up on that now.
There was nobody passing.
She played it very, very well. And Heather's been around. She's been around the block a few years now, so she knows, I suppose, what she needs to do at certain times. And that was one of those moments.
It's impressive. This is an impressive trip, as you're going to see. Yeah. There's no doubt about that. So let's talk about the Galway goals then, because goals win games. And in fairness to Kilkenny, they got it back to 2, but it was just the 3 goals. It was too much for them. I thought the first goal, it was obviously a brilliant run by Kilkenny. She drew Ailish O'Reilly's marker,
yeah.
but I thought she went too soon. She made it too easy on Niamh. She made the decision too easy for her, instead of maybe backing off a little bit and making Niamh have a difficult decision to make. She got sucked in and just left Ailish completely.
Yeah, I know, and I suppose you'd have to wonder, was that a little bit of, I don't know, a bit of nervousness on their part? They're normally quite good at I suppose, deciding when to go and when to not. It's very difficult as a defender to make that that timing to be completely correct, especially when there's only one last person in behind you. But she did kind of seem to commit a little bit to the tackle too much. It was Dormer, and she had a bit of a strapping on the knee. She actually got taken off, I think, towards the end of the game. I don't know, was she fully she didn't seem her usual self. She's normally very kind of fast on the ball, and she's also a very experienced player as well, so you kind of think that she would have maybe let Niamh come to her a little bit more and kind of could have disrupted that goal a bit, but she did make it. It was just a textbook. It was a great pass then into Ailish. She just drilled it then in past them, and it was a sucker punch, and even the way she delivered that was just kind of, it was very much sending a message out to Kilkenny, like from the start of the game.
Oh, it was a great goal. But yourself, if you're in Niamh Kilkenny's position and you're running in on goals, and you see somebody's inside and you're like, you just want that cornerback to come to you to make your life easy, because if they don't come to you, then you're like, shit, now I have a big decision. You know what I mean? It makes it much harder on you if you, I think, back off as long as you can until you really have, you know what I mean? Maybe make an effort there or something.
Yeah, no, definitely. As a defender, I know myself, it's a very, very difficult situation to assess properly, and it's nearly 1 out of 10 times you make it right where you stop the ball, but it just, I don't know, it looked nearly like she kind of gave it to Niamh. It was so easy, it just kind of, it was nearly like she was just walking through it, but no, it was an excellent pass, and even for her to execute off that pass as well was brilliant.
We'll talk a little bit more about Niamh later on, because this one is one of the best performances I've seen in an All-Ireland final. It was outstanding. Ailish O'Reilly was at it again for the second goal, a brilliant run. She got dispossessed then really well by Claire Phelan. It was a lovely textbook dispossession, and then Sarah Spellman hand passed it into Niamh Hannafy and she put it away. They're clubmates. A little bit of scrap, like brilliant play by Ailish initially, and then a little bit of scrappiness about it. Yeah,
it was scrappy. I was watching the highlights last night in the Sunday game, and it actually looked a bit more scrappier than I had thought when I was watching it in there, because that piece from Ailish at the start was very, very skillful. But again, Claire Phelan, she's an excellent player, and I suppose Niamh Hannafy was very much unaware of what was going on and kind of poaching around the square there for that breaking ball. Another player mightn't have pounced on it as quickly after that dispossession from Claire, but it was a great strike as well to connect with it, and I suppose to get it past that number of players that were there, not as maybe as exciting as the first one, but definitely still an excellent goal to get that quickly into the match. Yeah, exactly. Then the third goal was obviously Ailish. Is this poor defending by Grace Walsh? And had Grace Walsh gone in on Ailish at that stage, I think there might have been a change there for the second half. I'm not sure. You were at the game. It's hard to tell on television who's kind of marking who. I think Grace had changed them there at that stage. Yeah, and she'd gone back to mark. Which took Grace out of the game completely then, didn't it? Completely, yeah. And she's very physical and very she's excellent aerial skills as well. And I suppose kind of, you always have to make that decision of who's going to be taken out of the game a little bit. And I don't know why she's the player to do that, because she would have been one of their key defenders as well. But I think Ailish again, it was an excellent run from her, and a really great finish to that third goal as well. Which I thought she dealt with excellently. Yeah, she did. I thought Grace Walsh wasn't the greatest defending from her. She was goal side of her, like yourself. She probably should have been better there. Yeah. I don't know how she ended up being the last. I don't know how, and I felt, I suppose, again with Kilkenny, that they just weren't nearly leaving one person exposed a little bit in the back line, you nearly, like Kellyanne Doyle got back that time for the save that she made just before half time, but you'd like to have seen that a little bit more, and I felt like sometimes their defenders were a little bit exposed, so then if they did make a mistake like that, or weren't tackling brilliantly or defending brilliantly, that there'd be someone else behind them, but that just doesn't seem to be the case. They seem to be blindly following their markers wherever Galway wants, so now Galway are dictating where they're going. dictating.
So now you've Grace Walsh left at full back with nobody behind her because they're all maybe a smart thing to do is their full back just to let their marker on, let her go. And
they did seem to be player watching, I suppose, a little bit, and that is kind of testament to how well Galway was dictating that the forward unit there. You know, they really had them on their toes, and they didn't seem to know what they were doing. Kilkenny weren't just able to cope with it at all.
Yeah, no, exactly. So Anne Dalton went to midfield in the second half, like we mentioned. Why would she not start midfield? Like, she's clearly an outstanding player, and you have that bit more freedom in midfield. And Galway have an exceptional midfield, and at wing forward you can be kind of on the periphery a little bit. Depending, some games you could be on the ball all the time, and then other games you might not be. And I don't know, if I was manager, I wouldn't want Anne Dalton that up for chance, whether the ball might not be going down her wing.
Yeah, like I know she played in between, you know, the wing forward and the midfield position throughout the championship and throughout the league. And I suppose, I don't know, maybe their reason of thought was, you know, she was coming into the game scoring 1-2 on average, I think, from play, and maybe they wanted her in that little bit more close proximity around the goal mouth. But I think definitely, you know, after 15 minutes or so, that swap could have been made to bring her back out, even in the first half, get her back out and get her involved and more in the game, because she wasn't picking up a huge amount in there at all. She was very quiet, and, you know, as I said earlier, like, she's just such a massive player for them and involved in so many of their what's good for Kilkenny. So it is a weird one. You would think, with especially with the two midfielders from Galway, like that she would have been put in there to mark one of them, because Megan Farrell just wasn't in it at all for Kilkenny midfield. Like, she was completely outclassed by Niamh there, and, you know, that swap probably would have been made a lot more sense to happen earlier.
Yeah, when Anna Farrell got a point, there was a half chance of a goal if she kept going. And you think, they've 3 goals, we've none. It's going to be hard to get this back. I would have thought she would have kept going there for that one. She seemed to be happy with her point. Now, I know they got it back to 2, but you know yourself trying to peg back a lead, and then all Galway had to do was get 1, and now you're knocked back that little bit further. Yeah,
and I think, like, I actually think Anna Farrell probably had one of the better performances out of Kilkenny forwards. She was constantly making runs, and she is a threat up there, and it was a good point. But I suppose Kilkenny are, you know, their experience, and maybe they're thinking to themselves, we're going to keep picking off these points and it'll come. And, you know, I don't think it probably wasn't the right option looking back, like, in hindsight, and the goal probably was on for them. But I think it would have given them a better platform, definitely, to possibly try and get over the line there in the end. But she did like they were taking their points a little bit more, I suppose, in that second half.
Yeah, at one point in the second half, Kilkenny got it back to 2. And then the next puck out, Aoife Donoghue won a brilliant break, and she drove forward, and there was a free for Galway, and it was missed.
Yeah, Carrie Dolan, the easy one.
Really easy one. And then I was thinking Galway could be crumbling here, you know. But, like, I mean, they did show a lot of character to turn, because it did look like the momentum was with Kilkenny, even though they had the 3 goals. Kilkenny were coming back strong.
I think they got 4 unanswered points up until the 42nd minute. Kilkenny did, and that free was kind of uncharacteristic, I suppose, of Carrie Dolan as well. But she turned it back then about 5 minutes later. She got that incredibly difficult one, you know, and I think that then kind of signals to Kilkenny and to a lot of Galway supporters.
That put 3 in it again.
Yeah, and that really showed, you know, I suppose the resilience there in the team. You know, they weren't going to fall down that easily. But it did look like for I suppose a couple of minutes around that period with Denise Gall, she got a nice point as well, and Dalton, that they were kind of staging that comeback. But
I think that free that put 3 in it, the really difficult angle, was for a third man tackle on, it was Claire Phelan got a yellow for it.
Yeah,
looked a little bit harsh, I thought. Like, I mean, there wasn't much in it, but that was a huge score, because now it's 3 in it. Now you need a goal, you know.
Yeah,
I think that deflated Kilkenny, didn't it?
I think so. I think, and it took the life out of them a little bit, and you could actually even see in some of the forwards in the last couple of minutes, you know, they did actually look deflated around there, I suppose. And you know, I don't know. Yeah, I thought yellow was probably a little bit harsh for that tackle, but as I said, he was, I suppose, letting a lot go, but also pulling up on some of the harder ones, like, so with 7 yellows in the game.
A lot of the Galway players talking about the work Cahill did, you know, under mental strength and things like that, and I suppose that came to fruition, and strength and conditioning, you know, their conditioning to finish it out pretty well. It's almost like the whole plan came together on All-Ireland final day.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they could have written a better script for what happened yesterday. You know, it just seemed like everything culminated in, you know, an unbelievable performance. And I don't know what he did with their mental side of things, but I'd like to know. But I know that they were working very hard on their strength and condition from very early on in the year, and you can see them like their running game is incredible, but they're also extremely strong within the tackles as well. Like even Niamh Kilkenny in the middle there, just the engine of the two of them, and all of the Galway players, like they just looked like they could keep on going for another hour there, whereas Kilkenny did look that little bit tired. And I suppose it's nice to see when you've put in work like that it's it does pay off. So more credit to them, and a lot of teams around the country will learn from them.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but like sports psychology is important, but for me there's no better sports psychology or ingredient for mental strength than being well prepared. And from what I read about Cahill is that it's an incredibly professional setup. So now mentally in your head you're thinking, we can't be any better prepared. We are ready for that's mental strength. It's like it's not like we're missing anything here. And I think that a lot of the time, because Ailish was talking about not really knowing what he's done for that. But you just have a brilliant setup. You need for nothing. You've every box ticked. There's no better mental strength than knowing that you're ready. You know?
Exactly. No, and there's not. And I suppose maybe part of it was just him reinforcing that train of thought with the girls, throughout the year. And they've always been thereabouts, and they've always done the work. But I suppose it was trying to highlight that and let them know, that's that they have the work done and that preparation is done. And as you said, like there's nothing more calming, I suppose, even going into a game or an important game, knowing that you've done everything that you can possibly do, and that having done that, the result will take care of itself once you work hard on the day. Like, and I think they definitely seem bonded as a unit from that.
Definitely do. So they won the double. They beat Cork and Kilkenny on the way to the All Ireland. They are the D team now.
Yeah, they're the team to beat next year. I think Ailish Stolen actually after the game forgotten. I think they'd won the league final. There was some interview with her, and someone had said, "And you done the double?" And she's like, "Oh God, yeah, I forgot about that." Like, but when you think about it, it has been an exceptional year for them, and I suppose it's definitely nice to see that rivalry between Cork and Kilkenny freshened up, and an indicator for other teams that you kind of get there. But they did the three of them still, I suppose, they're that little bit ahead of the chasing pack. I think.
I thought Sarah Dervin's speech was like every other speech that you hear these days. It's thank you to everybody. I think they should be scrapped because there's so many people in the backroom teams now, it just becomes a thank you, like a wedding speech, and there's no character put into it. I thought her speech was okay. I thought it was a funny one when she said, "And what can I say about our county board?" And I was right, here we go, what's she going to say? And she was just complimenting them. I'd never heard that before. So I don't know if that's different in the men's game. A county board would never be thanked in the men's game.
I've heard that before on a couple of other Camogie speeches, but I read an article there about All Ireland speeches and how they've just become this painful
it's terrible
litany of thanks, like, and what can she do now? Only go up and thank everyone. I'm
not blaming her. I'm blaming the game, not the player.
Need to be they definitely need to be scrapped, because you just know what's going to be said,
and you can't leave anyone out.
No,
so there's 18 in your backroom team, they all have to be thanked. So like we've just
where do you draw the line? Like, it's this time next year is going to be 24 thank yous, like, but I think I don't know, scrap them and just say allow players just to say one big thanks and
to the backroom team in general,
and something from the heart or from what they want to say. I did think she did speak well though, but
no, she did, but it's the same. It's insert captain speech here, pretty much, isn't it? It's the line of Irish, and then it's the thanking your teammates, and then the selectors, and leave the manager to the last. What more can I say about him? And then look, I've been done with them for a good while now, to be honest. Like, Cluxton has just brought them to a new level of boredom.
What do you suggest then?
I suggest just lifting the cup and go. All the players lift the cup. That the crowd, it actually deflates the crowd.
Yeah,
they're in a great mood, and the people who stay behind to hear or to see the cup being lifted, not all supporters do, most of them do. They're at fever pitch when the cup's lifted, and
then it's just gone.
And they go out with a stadium board.
Right, so we'll have to put that forward now for next year.
Another one for your GPA, your women's GPA. I'd like to finish up on Paddy Power Performance of the Weekend. Usually it's a section of its own, but Ailish took up part 2, so we're going to do it here. I have a few nominations. Now I'll edit this out. I have a few nominations. First one up is Ailish O'Reilly. We've spoken enough about her. Come the hour, come at the woman. 2 goals, made the other one. Fairy tale stuff.
Yeah, she was an excellent performer yesterday, and has been all year, and it's just Galway rely on her so much, and she just brings an incredible threat to any forward unit, and definitely a worthy nominee.
Yeah, Aoife Donoghue type of midfielder reminds me a little bit like Jamie Barron or someone like small, fast, but he's in on everything.
Yeah, she's involved in every kind of set play, I suppose, and the workhorse, the work out of her was incredible yesterday, and the interplay between her and Niamh was excellent, and she's a real I suppose team player, and while she might not get that recognition, I suppose, that Niamh gets, she still is an incredible part of that Galway team.
Yeah, no, definitely is. Katrina Cormacan, right? So she went back and did a man marking job on Anne Dalton. Now she was picked centre forward. Has she played in defence before? Or is this just out of?
Yeah, she has. Yeah.
So it wouldn't have been a big deal for her. It was a reshuffle.
Yeah, not like frequently, but I think she has been known to drop back a little bit. But I suppose it was an excellent move by Colin Murray to get her back. She's a very physical, very strong player, also very fast, has a lot of actually experience playing football, and it's very tactically aware, which you'd need for someone marking Anne Dalton. So I thought she had a very, very good game and imposed herself very well. Kept one of the best players, if not the best player in the country last year. Out of it for a large
player of the year last year,
yeah,
wasn't she?
Yeah,
even after losing. But Paddy Power performance of the weekend has to go to Niamh Kilkenny. I don't think there's any suspense about this. This was phenomenal. 4 points from play. Made the first goal. Dispossessed Miriam Walsh in the second half brilliantly. Was back, just kind of involved in everything. And the catch and the point in the second half was as good as you'll see at any match, at any level, anywhere. Galway really needed that because they hadn't scored in 12 minutes and Kilkenny were rallying. Yeah. And she caught a puck out and just went straight down the field and stuck it over. This is Roy of the Rover stuff, really, isn't it? A performance that. She
just gave an absolute exhibition of midfield performance, or of any performance on any GAA pitch anywhere. It was incredible to watch, and I thought her skill level and her fitness and her leadership that she shows and what she brings to Galway is just monumental. And especially that catch and point over the bar was just amazing. I'd say it'd be replayed now for the next few weeks, but she's just she's a phenomenal player, always has been for Galway. And back in 2014 when they did win as well, she was very influential as well. So she definitely, I don't think there's any question about
was she midfield in that year?
I think she might have been, she used to play up in the forwards a bit, so I can't remember what position she was there, but either way, she's always very involved in the game, and just gave an absolute exhibition of Camogie.
She definitely did, there's no doubt. So is she Player of the Year wrapped up now as well, do you think, but based on that performance, or is there anyone else from Galway?
Definitely be in the running there anyway first.
Who else is in the mix for that? Who will be shortlisted?
I'd say Ailish O'Reilly will be as well in the forwards, but I don't know. I'd say that Niamh Pipper at that. It's just, she's involved in so much of the play. They'd be kind of be lost without her there, and her leadership to pick them up there in that when they hadn't scored in that little bleak period that they had in the second half. To get that point, and that one off her left as well was incredible. So I'd say she'll definitely be in the run for that.
She'll definitely be in the mix. Listen, Laura, thanks very much for coming in.
Very welcome.
That's all we've time for. We'll be back with the football show. This is like a bonus hurling show. We ended a hurling show a while ago, but we will be back on Thursday with a football show. So we'll talk to you then. Good luck.